Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Today my topic is Dr. C.V. Raman, the celebrated genius. Students, it is my second lecture pertaining to this important topic. In my first lecture, I have already told you that C.V. Raman was the great son of this soil, our motherland India, who won the highest prize in science, that is Nobel Prize in Physics in year 1930 for his research in science. Students, it is page number 83 of our textbook chapter 2. Please open your textbook and listen carefully. After 10 years of government service, Raman resigned the job to work as the professor of physics at Kolkata University, despite the fact that the university paid him a lower salary than government did. It was at the university laboratory that Raman did the most important research of his life. Dear students, you already know that after completing his master's degree, C.V. Raman took up a job in Kolkata as an assistant accountant general. But his interest in science didn't decrease. He carried on his research in science, and during this period, as an assistant accountant general in Kolkata, he used to perform research in his spare time, particularly in the mornings and evenings in the laboratory of the Indian Association for Cultivation of Science. And after 10 years of government service, C.V. Raman resigned the job and took up teaching profession. He began to work as the professor of physics at Kolkata University. Despite the fact that he was paid a lower salary by the University of Kolkata in comparison to the salary he was paid by the then government as an assistant accountant general. The world was not slow to recognize the importance of C.V. Raman's achievements. When the Nobel Prize was announced, I saw it as a personal triumph, an achievement, recognition for a very remarkable discovery for reaching the goal I had pursued for seven years. C.V. Raman says that world recognized the importance of his research, and he was selected for Nobel Prize. And C.V. Raman thought it his personal victory, his personal achievement, and the recognition for his remarkable discovery for which he had worked for a period of 7 years. But when I sat in that crowded hall and I saw the sea of Western faces surrounding me, and I, the only Indian in my turban and closed coat, it dawned on me, it revealed on me, that I was really representing my country, my people, and my country. I felt truly emotional, but I couldn't restrain myself. C.V. Raman says that when he attended the hall to receive Peace Nobel Prize and sat in the hall, he saw a sea of Western faces. He saw a galaxy of Western intellectuals, Western scholars, scholars surrounding him. And in that galaxy of Western scholars, he was the only Indian in his traditional Indian dress, that is a turban and closed coat. And it was exposed to him that in that gathering that actually he was representing the people of India and his motherland, his country, India. And he felt emotionally excited while receiving the prize. Humble. I felt truly humble when I received the prize from King Gustav. C.V. Raman says that in that gathering, in that crowding hall, in which he was the only Indian in his western dress, a turban and closed coat, surrounded by western intellectuals, he thought that it was exposed to him, it was revealed to him that he was actually representing the people of India and his motherland India, and he felt truly emotional. He felt emotionally excited when he received the prize from King Gustav, and it was a moment of great emotion for him. But I couldn't restrain myself. Then I turned round and saw the British Union Jack under which I had been sitting, and it was then that I realized that my poor country India didn't even have a flag of her own, and it was this that triggered off my complete breakdown. He was so moved by emotions that tears started streaming down his face. While receiving the prize from King Gustav, C.V. Raman says that he was emotionally excited. But when he turned around and saw British Union Jack, that is the flag of flag of England, he saw himself sitting under the British Union Jack, and it was then he realized the poverty of his India, that he thought that his country is so poor that it is not in a position to afford her own flag. And it was this event which triggered off his complete breakdown, and he was so moved by this episode, by this event, that tears started rolling down his face. Raman was proud to be an Indian until the day he died. He didn't give up his traditional Indian turban in favor of an European hat. Raman was proud to be an Indian, the son of his motherland India. Until the day he died, he wore his traditional Indian dress, his traditional Indian turban, in place of European hat. In those days, going abroad was a rare event, and people were always curious to learn about one's foreign experiences. Those were the days, and in those days, going outside the country was a rare event, and people were always curious to learn, to inquire about one's foreign experiences. Did you not find it embarrassing to be in London with a turban? Raman was asked. Once C.V. Raman was asked by the people that didn't he found it embarrassing to be in London with a turban. Young man, he replied. In reply to this question, C.V. Raman replied, I will tell you about a little incident that happened while I was in London. One evening, I went to the Royal Institute to hear a lecture by Lord Rutherford. I arrived a little late, and by that time, the lecture had started. In reply to this question posed by the young man, that didn't he found it embarrassing to be in London with a turban, C.V. Raman replied by telling him an episode. The episode he told the young man is as under. I will tell you about a little incident that happened while I was in London. C.V. Raman told the young man about the incident which happened with him while he was in London. He said to the young man, one evening I went to the Royal Institute to hear a lecture by Lord Rutherford. I arrived a little late, and by that time the lecture had started. He told it was one evening when C.V. Raman went to Royal Institute to hear a lecture by Lord Rutherford, and he arrived a little late, and by that time the lecture had started. And so I quietly slipped into one of the back rows and sat there. So C.V. Raman quietly slipped into one of the back rows and sat there. In order to be noticed by Lord Rutherford and other scholars who were there in the hall to hear the lecture of the towering scientist Lord Rutherford. Suddenly, Lord Rutherford looked at me and said, Professor Raman, why are you sitting there all alone in the back row? Come up here to the front. I then went and sat in the front row with all the famous British scientists. When C.V. Raman was sitting in the back row, suddenly Professor Lord Rutherford saw him and asked C.V. Raman that why he is sitting there all alone in the back row, and he was instructed to come up here to the front and sat there in the front row with all other famous British scientists. After the lecture, I asked Rutherford, Professor, how did you recognize me? When the lecture was concluded, C.V. Raman says that he asked Lord Rutherford that how he recognized him. This is my first trip to England, and we have never met so far. Citing the reason that it was his first trip to England and he had never met Lord Rutherford. Rutherford replied, well, I have read your papers, and when I saw a person in the audience wearing a Madrasi turban, I knew it must be you. So, young man, now tell me what is wrong with a Madrasi turban. In reply to the question posed by C.V. Raman, Lord Rutherford replied to C.V. Raman that he had read his papers, and when he saw a person in the audience wearing a Madrasi turban, he concluded that it must be Dr. C.V. Raman. And in this way, he made the young man clear that, oh young man, now tell me what is wrong with a Madrasi turban, what is wrong in wearing a traditional dress like Madrasi turban. C.V. Raman was a brilliant speaker, and his speeches were spiced with ready wit and humor. C.V. Raman was not only a great scientist, he was a great orator, he was a brilliant speaker also, and his speeches were spicy with ready wit, they were full of wisdom, and they were also full of humor. In one of his speeches he delivered at Agra University on 18th November 1950, he expressed his belief in the oneness of nature and science. He delivered a speech at Agra University on 18th November 1950, and in which he expressed his firm belief that nature and science is not separate, they are one. Thank us, stay blessed, have a nice day, goodbye.